Hi, everyone. I'm Abby, and this is Lora Rose, and we are the hosts of the Beyond the Home Study podcast. We're just two adoptive moms who are navigating the real life journey of adopting and foster care placement. And we want to share with you all the things beyond all that paperwork that you had to do to get to this point. So we're glad you're here. All right, Laura, happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
How's it going?
It's going. Yeah, it would be great if my Ember mug wasn't dying because my coffee is
I
lukewarm.
think my light is still white. You probably can't really see it, but if you're on YouTube watching, you can see us sitting here sipping our coffee. Just pretend
And
we're
I
sitting
have
and having coffee with you.
the red light of doom.
And Laura's cup is slowly dying. Do you use your Ember app to control your temperature and all of that?
I set it up and then left
Uh,
it.
yeah.
I was like, okay, we're good. That's how I want it. And then I've never touched the app again. I've gone in to try to reset it, but
hmm
that's about it.
There's sometimes where it's been sitting for a while on the charger, but it has coffee in it, and I want to pick it back up, heat it back up. And it's crazy because I could not tell you the last time that I microwaved coffee. This is how I heat my coffee back up.
I'm so spoiled, because so my Ember mug is slowly dying, not like battery life, just in general, I need to get a new
Yeah.
one. And so I've been using other mugs some, and I'm like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
How could anyone drink their coffee this way?
I don't know if we've talked about this on the show yet, but it's so funny because you were one of the only other people I knew who had an Ember mug. I've had one for, oh gosh, it was before Judah was born. So probably 4.5 years. And I would tell people about it, this is the most amazing thing, and nobody else had one. And then I would see that you were posting with it or had it, and I was like, "Oh, finally, someone who understands the importance of this mug."
We connect over our Ember mugs.
I've even gotten it as gifts for people who are just I don't really need it. And I'm like, how? How do you not need
No,
it?
you do. If you are listening to this podcast and you're in our demographic, you need this.
Yeah, definitely. So there's your not sponsored um, Ember promo for today. Yeah, right. Well, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So let's jump into our topic today. Okay, so today we're talking about transracial adoption. And we just want to start this all off by saying, this is not something that we feel we have all this advice to give. We don't feel like we're experts in any way. We are learning right alongside all of you. So, yeah, we just want to approach this with humility and lots of grace. So, starting with us, the adoptive parents, um, both Laura and I are parenting children who are not the same race as us. So, we both, at least, I guess we're coming at it from experience, probably not expertise, but experience of that. So, Laura, when you think about parenting LJ, even before you brought her into your home, what were some of your biases? What are some of the things that you thought about? How did you even prepare, or lack of preparation that maybe you wish you would have prepared?
Think there was a little bit of lack of preparation, partly because when you do foster care, you don't know what you're getting. Like our
Yeah.
first placement, they were white.
Yeah.
Um, excuse me. And so it was a little bit of I mean, we took classes Kentucky's foster care training is actually pretty thorough. And so there were some classes about it. So I felt mildly prepared, but I also was I don't want to go read a book that I don't have time to read when I don't even know what we're getting.
Right.
Or if they're staying. And then, uh, when we got LJ, we were like, okay, great. There was a little bit of I don't even know her full ethnic history. We knew that her biological mom is half white, half black. But the dad is either fully black or fully white.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we lean towards the fully black, but just based on some other things. But So we kind of were like, I don't even know what we're getting. Like, with the hair, she didn't have any hair. So we're like, so there was a lot of things that like I didn't prep because I felt like I don't know what I'll even need. And I think we're just now getting into stuff where I'm like, maybe I should read some more books about this.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm totally honest. And honestly, I was terrified, like, so in my family, my sister and brother both have biracial children. Um, and and so I think there was almost this like assumption like, "Oh, I've seen this, like you don't have to do anything, it's fine." And now I'm like, "Oh, but there are some things that I want to be particular about that I haven't quite done yet."
Yeah.
So,
What's your like what's kind of your source when you think about, okay, maybe I should read some books, maybe I should do a little bit more research. Like, do you have a source that you're thinking of going to, or is that something you're still exploring?
it comes to books, not really.
Yeah.
Like Google,
Yeah.
Chat GPT, I don't know, like
Hey,
just yeah, like just
another
going and
unofficial
finding
sponsor.
right, another unofficial, yeah, for real. Um, yeah, so just like going there and figuring out what books to read that I like sound good to me. But in terms of
Mhm.
like other types of resources, I mean, we know people that are either black or mixed race, that we can ask. And we have asked about certain things like
Yeah.
hair products or some things. But yeah, like
Yeah.
Abby said at the beginning of this is definitely not an episode where we're like, I know all the things. Because guess what, guys? I do not know all the things.
Yeah. Honestly, that's like how I've thought about this is it is a this episode for us is like a springboard into more conversations, I think. So that's what we're hoping to get out of this is like we need resources too and like we want to have these conversations too. So as you're listening to this, if you have resources, if you have things that have been helpful for you and your family, share them with the rest of us or share them with us directly and we can share them out too. However you want to do that. Um so yeah, it's an interesting thing with so we talk a lot about like the differences and the similarities of foster care versus adoption. So in foster care, like you're very unaware of like who's going to come through your door, right? And in adoption, at least both of our adoptions, in our embryo adoption, there's a form where you're kind of like checking off which race you're considering for embryos. And so our initial, our kind of like our initial ask was, well, Josh is Hispanic, I'm Caucasian, so if there was a mix, that would be amazing. That was what like our first ask was. And they had told us, the majority of people who do IVF are either Caucasian or Asian. So that's likely what you'll see come through your email, like when you start getting matches or when you get your first match. Um, so surprisingly, we did get an embryo cohort that was Hispanic Caucasian. We were very surprised by that. So that was Judah. Then with the girls, we were going through the list and we're like, well, it doesn't really matter to us right now because we have Judah who is Hispanic Caucasian. So we're pretty open to whatever might come our way. So we just had like, I think we had either checked all the boxes or left them all unchecked or however we set up the paperwork and just said like, we're very open. And the girls are, we know, half Middle Eastern. And then our assumption is that they are half Hispanic. Um, the father side was a bit unknown from what we could gather. But it's funny because, like, Josh, he was always, when he was younger, he was always mistaken for Middle Eastern. Like, he'll tell you that. Like, he even had a friend in college who was like, I want to be friends with you because you're Indian. And he's like, I'm not Indian. But he just like definitely has more of like the Spanish Hispanic look versus like South American. Anyways,
Also, what a
um,
weird thing to say for his friend.
so weird. But that's like college guys friendships, I don't know. That's like
Well, that's white people friendship sometimes. I'll just be
yeah.
honest.
Yeah, that's true. Be my diverse friend, please.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess we didn't even say that, but for someone who's coming in, you've probably seen a picture of us if you're looking at this podcast, but we're definitely two white girls who are talking
Oh,
about
yeah.
this too. And you can go on YouTube and watch us if you want. Um, just so weird, setting the stage. But anyways, I think it's just really interesting because when you're walking through an adoption, it's almost like you're getting to like pick and choose, which feels a little weird to say, like, I'm going to choose the race of my child, which ultimately, even a birth mom can select something on a form that is not accurate. That's that's
That's true. I didn't
that's
even think
very
about
real.
that.
Yeah, that's a very real possibility. But you can also see, like, if you look at pictures of my girls now, they're like they actually look a lot like Josh. Like they have like darker skin tone, dark hair, dark eyes. So I'm excited to see what they look like as they keep getting older. But it's just interesting the difference between foster care versus adoption.
Yeah. I mean, you can choose with foster care, like, you can specify,
Yeah,
like, they tell you when you accept a placement, like well, they tell you what they think.
right.
Again, it's like, who knows if it's accurate?
Hmm.
But for Greg and I, we just kinda were like, "I don't really care," like, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, there's some pros and cons there. I think, like, in some regard, like, had we been specific and asked for, like, only white children, you know, maybe there would have been a black foster family that was better equipped, or something like that. Like that definitely goes through my mind of like, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, I'm not God. I don't get like, I can
yeah,
only like, yeah, it's not bad to like want to make requests, but for us, it just felt like, I'm going to put this in God's hand. I don't know what we need. I don't know what I can do. I just don't know.
yeah.
So you choose.
Yeah, and I think that, approaching it all from a humble place of saying, like, I'm going to do the best that I can to love and care for these children, to provide a safe place for them. That's where you have to come from. And I think even in conversations, so this is a kind of like a silly example, but we were at the doctor's a couple weeks ago with the girls, and there was a nurse who I was talking to a lot because we were with her for a while. And she's like, "Oh, I'm actually adopted." And, she's probably in like her late 20s. Um, and I was like, "Oh, really? That's so interesting. Tell me, can I like hear your story? What do you like, anything that you'd want to share?" So she's talking to me, and she was talking about some of the hardships of growing up in an adopted family and some different things, and she was Black, and I said, "Can I ask if your adopted family was white?" And she's like, "Oh, no, they're Black." And so, like, even some of, like, the struggles and things that she had that I'm thinking, like, "Oh, maybe it's because she was the only Black child in a white family." She's like, "Oh, no, like, those were struggles with my Black adoptive parents too." I was like, interesting. But like, I came at it from like you don't have to tell me this. I just am curious. And she's like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
very open. I'll tell you anything you want to know."
That is interesting. Well, and
Yeah.
even like within like you think about like my insecurities, like I think I've mentioned this on other podcasts. Like I'm always so insecure because I am a very obviously white female with a
Yeah.
child that's not. And so I feel like I'm going to be extra judged by the black community.
Hmm.
I don't know why I feel that way, but it's like this undue pressure I put on myself. But what's so interesting is that like even children in a household, like, my nephews and nieces, like they're in biological households
Right.
of mixed races and they still struggle with some of these same things that like I'm anticipating like my children struggling with. So like you're saying, like it's like undue pressure,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. We can link to the episode we did a few weeks ago with Bethany. We did an interview with Bethany Meacham, and she talked a lot about some of those like different pressures, even like pressures that her son Malachi faced from other Black kids at school. And I think it's just, yeah, overall, it's like a call to be gracious with each other.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about like what we think our kids are like the messages our kids are receiving about race. I know our kids are really young, and Bethany did a pretty good job of like talking through how she has shared with her older kids, um, like just some of the conversations they've had around race. But I don't know, what do you think, like in your context, Laura? What is it like for you, like at church, in your community? Like, are you kind of like, is LJ kind of an outsider? Is she very like involved in the community, or like are there people around her that look like her?
So I think this is really interesting from like a science standpoint, yeah. But my daughter gravitates towards people that look like her, even though the people in her own family don't look like her. So
Wow. Yeah.
this has been going on since she was an infant. She will see someone with the same kind of hair as her, or and it has to be like specifically like her skin tone. So she's kind of light skinned, so she wouldn't necessarily light up around someone that was like particularly dark skinned, but someone that had like, you know, light skin like her, but obviously not white, and then hair like her, she will gravitate towards them. So kids, we go to the library, at church. She now that she's older, she'll say, "Mommy, they look like me. They look like me." Like
Oh,
kids in books, like always has gravitated. Um, and and so that, like, I think you can take that more than one way. Like, the insecure part of me wants to be hurt by that, like, "Oh, this is something I can't provide her." But then the, like, loving Christ-like part reminds me that, like, even if you did look like her, this is
yeah.
okay. Like, we're a community, and also how great that there are people that she can connect with in that way.
Yeah.
And I love it. So now we'll go out on walks, and um a woman will, like, this happened the other day. We were on a walk and a woman stopped and looked at LJ and said, "You have hair just like me. It's so beautiful." And I was like,
Oh,
like,
thank you.
I love that she pointed that out. I love
Yeah.
that she said that. And I want her to see, like, look at that woman. Like, she's beautiful. She thinks you're beautiful. Like, yeah. So I think, yeah. So there's people in the community, just at church, and just people that we see. But it's interesting that, like, she's always gravitated towards people that look like
Yeah. That is really interesting. When I think about like the messages that specifically Judah is receiving, I like now that you're bringing up like looking at books and different things, and we talked about one of the kids' books. It's a Sesame Street book, actually. The We're Different, We're the Same. I'm thinking like those are probably some of the best resources for like just entering into this conversation with your kids, like finding books that have good stories, good messages, whatever it may be, that showcase children and people of all different races, different hair color, different eye color, all of that. So I can think of a couple like on Judah's shelf right now. And it's fun because we have a couple of friends who, their families are made up of adoptive and foster care and biological kids, and they all look very different. And there's one book in particular that every time we look at it, he's like, "Oh, look, that's Eden." Like he points at it because like it really looks like her with her little sibling. And so I'll have to share some of those links of books because I think for him, like we're in a predominantly white area here now. Like when we lived in Louisville, it was a bit more diverse and our community was a bit more diverse, but where we are here is definitely predominantly white. And, even for Josh and I, like being a biracial couple, like that's not as common where we're at now. And so I think it's really fun for Judah to have like these little books where like this is all he knows. Like this is what he sees. Oh, this is what he knows in books. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I really appreciate that about where we live now. That
Yeah.
it is, I mean, yeah, like you could stay in your white bubble for sure, but
Hmm.
there is diversity here. And so I'm not afraid that, like, my children, and not just my daughter, my son too. I'm like, I want
Yeah.
you to see, um different cultures, different walks of life. And so it's nice that Louisville has that. Like,
Yeah.
not even just in the community, but in, festivals that they do. Like, there's like an
Hmm.
international festival, the restaurants that are offered,
Yeah.
um, and I love it too when, like, yeah, like I went climbing the other day, and the leader of this was like at an event, and the leader of the group was like, to me, looked like what LJ will look like when she's in her 30s.
So
And
cute.
I was like the body type, the, like, skin color, like, the type of hair, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool."
Hmm.
And it made me be like, "I want LJ to see this." Like, there are people that are of color that look different that are climbing and doing these things too. Like I don't want you
Yeah.
to feel pigeonholed into particular activities or particular things. Like you can do what you want to do and like I don't yeah, like I want her to feel like the world is your oyster or whatever
Yeah,
that
for
saying
sure.
is, you know what I mean?
I think it's good too, like what you're talking about, like you seeing these things first, because I think as parents and like especially as adoptive parents, like we may have to seek these relationships out. Like they may not just come to us, just like they may not just come to our kids, but like we're seeking those friendships and relationships out so that our kids can see that we're doing that too. Like I think Bethany talked about that of like she had a few family around her that were like resources of like what do I do XYZ. And I think that's really it's I don't know, like I'm not sure what you would say, Laura. Like is that like a you have to do this before you adopt a child of another race, or is it something that's like a nice to have? You know, like I don't know. I mean, I think it's extremely important, but is it like a prerequisite?
I think it's a prerequisite, but I do think like even if you don't even have kids, if you're like looking at your community and everybody looks like you, everybody's the same religion as you, everybody
Yeah.
thinks the same as you, like there's something wrong with that picture. Like we
Yeah.
can't grow if we're only around people that are just like us,
Hmm.
you
That's good.
know? And so I think that it's like 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 my daughter that seeks out people that look like her, it's a natural biological thing to do that, but we
Yeah.
have to actively make an effort to seek out people that are different so that we can learn and grow. And I
Yeah.
think doing that as an individual, regardless of your if you have kids or if they're biracial or whatever, is important. And then I think that if you haven't already done that and then you find yourself with kids that are of a different race, um showing them that you're making that effort also just goes to show like another level of like, hey, I don't know everything. I'm your parent. God put me here to care for you, but that doesn't mean that he gave me all the knowledge
Right.
like right away on how to do this the best way, and I'm seeking out help. This
Yeah.
is what that looks like.
Yeah. I think that's good. And if you're in a context where you don't have lots of other types of people around you, lots of other races around you, like I don't know all the ways, but I'm sure that there are ways to connect with groups. Like I'm even thinking for myself, like if we go a little bit further into the city where there's different types of restaurants, different types of areas, probably festivals, things like that. Like that would probably be a really good thing for me and my family to be a part of more and more. And so like, yeah, how do we find those things? Facebook events, looking at, different things online, trying to connect with different groups of maybe adoptive families in your area. Those are just some ideas of like, if you don't have that community, how do you build it?
Yeah, and also travel, like
Yeah.
just in the same way that like going to another country is so helpful because you see a different way of living, like go to a different area, like travel to specific areas where you're going to see something different,
Yeah.
you know? Um, yeah, I think like if you have the luxury of being able to travel, like you can also do it in that way. So it doesn't always have to be like find your best black friend. Like that's
Yeah.
not, and also, I'm sorry, but your black friend doesn't want to be your token black friend. Like
Yeah, exactly. It's
find
so
people that you
true.
like. I'm just saying be open minded about
Yes. I like that. Yeah, I'm even thinking of, like one of the things that I mean, I would love to brush up on my Spanish and I would love for Judah to learn Spanish like as he gets older. And so even thinking about like we do have like our local Mexican restaurant and like I have called them to try to order on the phone before and I'm like I can't do this. Like I can say what I think I want, but then if they ask me any questions, like, nope, like I can't understand you. But that would be something like I personally would love to grow in that. And I'd love to see Judah learn that skill and like be able to kind of enter into relationships and friendships with people that he can speak Spanish to.
yeah, well, and seeing that you're practicing it, even if you're
Yeah.
failing, like
Yeah.
that's good for him to see too, because he may also have a fear of trying it out. That's
Yeah.
actually really common for kids. that
Mm.
live in like bilingual families. They can understand it, but
Yeah.
they're scared to speak it.
Mhm.
And so seeing another parent attempt to speak it is probably really helpful. And you can also do things like, what shows are you watching? Like, I've had to watch
Yeah.
this. I'm like, man, I gravitate towards shows where for my kids, where the main character is white. And
Mm.
I'm like, oh man, that's so interesting. And so trying to seek out different shows where I'm like, okay, well, like, PBS has a show called Lila in the Loop. And I
Oh,
love putting that on for her because I'm like, yeah, like that's someone that looks more like you.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so there's some things you can do
Hmm.
even if you live in the boondocks or something.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's kind of where we live right now.
You're in the boondocks.
There is one of my friends did tell me, I need to ask her what it was called. She told me about like a Miss Rachel type of show that's in Spanish. And like
Oh, yes.
maybe that's what I
Yeah.
need because like Miss Rachel songs, I mean, they were stuck in my head when Judah was very young and they're about to be back in our house.
Yes, I
I don't know what it's
recommended
called.
that, to a family I was working with once, and there was a speech delay, and I
Oh,
wanted to recommend Miss Rachel, but they were Spanish speaking, and so, yeah, there's a Spanish one. I'll have to see if I can find it if you don't remember it, if
yeah,
you can't find it.
I can track it down. That'd be fun
Okay.
to share that. Um, yeah, I think that, in all of this, it's like there's so much where even as you're saying, like you just practice speaking Spanish and like let Judah see you fail, like things like that. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like that like makes me feel uncomfortable. But it's good because I'd rather do that now, like while he's young and like he gets to see me stumbling through and like figuring that out. So then he's not afraid as he grows up and tries it out too. I think that's really good. Um,
It's sometimes hard to show our kids our failures, but it's
oh,
actually really important.
yeah, that could probably be a whole other episode. Oh man. Okay, so we have, we've talked a little bit about like some different stories we have heard. There is one that just like as you're trying to approach this topic with like a posture of listening and trying to learn and grow, there is one resource that um we talked a lot about when we were doing our home study. I think it was here in Ohio. I don't know if I've talked about that before. Probably on one of the first episodes. We've done multiple home studies for our adoption of the twins because we moved states in the middle of the process. But I think it was the one here in Ohio, and it was called "The Adopted Life" by Angela Tucker. It's a series on YouTube. So she's a good voice in this community of like just listening, like asking good questions and listening. So if there's something like if you kind of need a little bit more motivation or you want to know like where to start or some good questions to ask, that she'd probably be a really good resource for you to check out. So I'm pretty sure she's Black. She was adopted by a white family, and now she does interviews of like all different adopted kids and adopted families, and it's pretty good. So it's a good resource to check out as you're trying to listen and learn. Is there anyone, Laura, that you follow on social media, have seen on social media, I don't know, other YouTubers or different things like that? Or is that something that like maybe we could open up and say like, hey, share your resources with us?
Um, there are people that I follow on social media. Like there's a girl that I follow on social media that is biracial and did foster care and had a whole slew of different, races. Um, but some of the things that I have found most helpful in terms of like who I follow are just following specifically like Black women
Mm,
um in general because one in my like I'm from a smaller town and like just the deep rooted mindset of race in general has just taken some time to form because it just was not as common. Like it was a pretty white rural community. Um, and so I've had to grow a lot and learn a lot anyway. And for a long time, I almost only like put all like Black people in one box
yeah,
just out of like ignorance.
yeah.
And so following following just Black women in general has helped me to see like, oh wow, they're individuals just like we are, which
Mhm.
seems so obvious, but um it just wasn't to me. It wasn't that obvious. And so that's been really helpful in general just to see like the different cultures,
Yeah.
the different communities. And there is this one woman, she has I can't think of her name. She is a, like, what's the, like, proper term for, like, a hairdresser? Or, like, I feel like that term's not used, but,
Uh,
like, a stylist. Actually, she's a curl expert. And,
oh, fun.
um, but she does, I think she calls it, like, morning time with Maddie, and she's
Aw.
got her little girl, and, like, she films their conversations while she does her hair in the morning, and it's, like, really sweet. She's super respectful of her child. Like, some days she'll post, like, "Maddie didn't wanna be filmed today, so you're not getting it," and I love it.
Mhm.
Like, she's so respectful of her daughter. The conversations that they have are so intentional. And I love that she's brought this act of like caring for her hair and made it this like relational thing. And so I really enjoy following them and just like listening to their conversations. And they talk about like, she'll say like other kids talking about her skin color, or like her mom said like no one should ever touch your hair unless you've given them permission. And I don't know if that's a Black community thing or if
Mhm.
that's their family thing, but,
Yeah.
like, to me, I'm like, "Real I don't know, that doesn't occur to me, like, people can't touch my hair. I mean, shouldn't touch my body, I guess, but I don't." And so that was actually, I was like, "Oh."
Mhm.
So there's been some, like, really helpful things just from following people in general.
Yeah.
What
I
about
think
you?
that's
Is there
good.
anything in particular that you like?
Um, yeah, I can't think of anything specifically. I think what I enjoy is looking at, like, following families who, not all the children look exactly like alike, because whether they're biological or they're adopted, just seeing that, because I anticipate some of those questions and conversations from Judah and from the girls as they grow up, of like, even, I mean, it even happens now of like, oh, where did Judah get his curly hair? Like, and that comes from people who don't know that he's adopted. And it's like, depending on the person, sometimes I'll say, oh, actually, I have curly hair too. I just, I straighten it or like blow it out a lot. And so sometimes I'll answer it like that. And then other times I'll say, well, actually, he's adopted. And so he's Hispanic, and he's actually Guatemalan and Swedish. And so I'm not exactly sure where his curly hair comes from. Like, it just kind of depends on who I'm talking to. But I imagine, as the girls grow older, like, they have very, very straight black hair, where he has like his curly kind of brownish blonde hair. And so things like that, I like getting to see other families that maybe don't look like this super cohesive, every child resembles the other or resembles one of the parents. Um, and just getting to see like how they interact and what they do, and seeing that that's absolutely normal.
You know what's crazy is that, like, as adoptive moms, I feel like we're like, well, I want families that look different so that we can talk about this, like what you're saying. But there are biological families that just look different.
Absolutely. Absolutely, there are. Yeah.
We like put all this pressure on us because we're like, oh, but we don't all look the same. And I'm like,
Mhm.
but that's just like
Genetics.
genetics.
I know, genetics, like, when you really, I mean, of course, there are the cookie cutter families, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like, you look like your brother, you look like your sister, you look like your mom, you look like your dad. But then there are other families that you look at and you're like, "Huh? How did that work?" Like, you have red hair, you have dark brown hair. Like, serious, genetics are truly wild.
They're truly wild. So I think sometimes I have to remind myself of that and be like, okay, we need to have a little grace on ourselves
Yeah.
because we're like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like I can be like a little oversensitive to things like that sometimes.
Yeah,
But
for sure. And I mean, I think it's kind of fun to like get to, even now I'm like, okay, I can dress the kids in like the colors and things that I like, or like, I'm kind of like choosing what I want them to be wearing right now. So I can like kind of make them look a little cohesive, like whether it's for family pictures or for a wedding we're in, or, different things like that. Like, this is kind of fun to like get to see them like all dressed cohesive. And then like if Judah picks out his own clothes, he's not going to pick out something that I would ever choose to put the girls in the same color scheme, all these different things. So it's like we can try to make things look cohesive, but they're individuals anyways. So
Right. Yeah,
sounds good to me.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They're
If
gonna do what they want.
if Judah has his choice these days, it's monster truck t-shirts all day, every day. I'm like,
Wow.
really? Every day?
Every day, why not?
Why not? Oh man, it's fun though. It's fun having all these kids, all these crazy kids.
All these crazy kids.
I'm curious from your perspective, Laura, because LJ is a little bit older. Um, what have you done with like providing or like seeking out like toys, dolls specifically that like look like her, that she can, kind of like what you're saying, like she gravitates towards? Is it something that you just kind of let happen as it happens, or are you like intentionally seeking out little dolls and figures that look like her?
No, so we specifically seek out dolls and things like that that look like her, but not just for her too. Like, I want my son to have those same dolls too.
Yeah,
Um, so we have a mix, of all races and colors of dolls.
yeah.
Um, one thing that was important to me when she was really young was finding a doll that had hair that felt like hers. Because when you have dolls that have hair, it's always that like same white blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mom found a doll that like had like curly black hair.
Oh,
It's actually a really creepy doll that we don't even use anymore. But
we won't link it.
yeah, we won't link it. But it was like nice for her to like actually my son loved it because he's obsessed with hair. But
Oh,
yeah, so like just to have different hair.
yeah.
So yeah, we definitely did do that where we had, dolls and things like that. Books. Um, this is funny, but like I may have mentioned this in another podcast episode. I can't remember, but I have a friend who, before I ever had kids, she got a nativity scene for her sons, and they're all white. My friend is all white, but she's just more culturally aware than I was.
Yeah.
And she used like colored pencils and colored their faces and their hands
Nice.
because she was like, they're all white. That's not
Yeah.
even historically accurate.
No.
And, then, like, I think it was last year or the year before, I went online to find a nativity scene, and it's actually really hard to find a nativity scene. Nativity, you guys, like, they're Middle Eastern, they are not white.
Right.
That's factual, and it's really hard to find them that are, not white. I found a few, but I was trying to get away from using plastic too, so
Uh,
add in natural materials and historically accurate nativity scenes, it is really hard to find them, but I did find one.
oh man, that's funny. I was gonna say you might have to break out your colored pencils.
I know,
Just color them.
right?
That's
But yeah, she
hilarious.
was just like, "Oh yeah, I just color them." I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's hilarious."
Yeah. No, that's good. I do feel like we've got a good range of books with like all different, even Love Every. We did like the Love Every
Mhm.
subscription kits for Judah when he was really young. And even like the kids who are featured in those books are like red hair, black skin, brown skin, like all different. Like they did a really good job with that. So we have a lot of books, but we don't have a lot of like dolls and toys. I mean, it's like monster trucks and fire trucks right now. So we don't have a lot of like little people toys. But I need to think about that because I think that's really important to have that, especially for the girls. But I think it'll be good for Judah too.
Well, you should do it now, especially that you have the babies.
Yeah.
Like, get him 2 babies,
Yeah.
get him a like, we have a little carrier, and our kids will, like,
So
carry the
cute.
babies around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a fun idea. I like
But
that.
sometimes they just do, like, animals.
Yeah. True.
Like, there's a fair amount of, like, even with shows, like well, no, there's, like, Miss Elena and Daniel Tiger, but, like, Daniel Tiger's not white or black, he's a tiger.
Yeah. Right. He's a talking
You know what I
tiger.
mean? So there's, like, things like that too where,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's more of like what he gravitates towards just because that's what he knows right now.
Yeah, they're kids.
Yeah.
Um, but I think just being more mindful too of like when you give them a picture to color, and this goes for any kid, not just, your mixed race kid, but like if you give them a picture of a kid to color and then you hand them like the peach crayon,
Yeah.
like why aren't you handing them a tan crayon or a brown
Brown.
crayon? Like
Yep.
letting them know that like the default is not white.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think, like we said at the beginning, we're approaching this conversation. Hopefully, you saw that we approached it with humility, and that you'll, carry that through as you have conversations about this too. We would love to keep talking. Send us a message in our DMs. If something resonated with you, if you disagree with something, if you have tips or resources or anything that you want to share with us or you want us to share out with others, we would love to, yeah, just keep learning and keep talking about this. So thanks for tuning in today and for being with us today.
And if anything we said today made you laugh, cry, or feel seen, don't forget to hit subscribe or send this episode to a friend. Thanks, guys.
Bye.